Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Sethum and welcome back to another video guide for Valheim. In this video, folks, I'm going to show you how to build a wolf breeder. So this is actually quite useful if you have a 2-star wolf or two 2-star wolves, so that you can breed them and then use them for whatever purpose you want, whether you want to farm them for the meat and the fur. It's up to you. First things first, we'll need to set down a workbench, and we want to do it on a fairly straight area that is slightly uphill because it will work to our advantage. Now you'll see why later on in this video, and once we've set down the workbench, we can then work on leveling the area that will become the pit. So in the pit basically is where all the pups will fall as the two main wolves continuously breed. So we'll just do that like so. It doesn't have to be perfect, and do bear in mind that, of course, as we did do this on a slight slope, the pit will have a slope as well, so kind of keep that in mind. Once we've done this, we will start digging downwards. Of course, we're going to use a pick for this. Start from wherever you want, make it as big as you want. I do prefer a bit of size here because what will happen is we're going to build the breeding part of this particular structure fairly high, so that will not interfere with, or the wolves down here will not interfere with them up there, and so therefore they will continuously breed and drop wolves for us. Now what you want to do is you want to kind of design the pit in a square like type of structure if you want to, but the most important thing is you want to go to the maximum depth. This is really important. Now we do want to have the section where we have the breeding wolves at about 5 wall pieces tall or above that, so that way they will not be messed with by the wolves down here. So let's have a look. This is pretty much it. This will be a sufficiently big pit. We're deep enough by the looks of it. I can't go any deeper than that, and so the next thing that we want to do is we're going to start measuring it out, and the way we do that is by using the wall pieces. Remember, we want to go I'd suggest 5 tall just for good measure. I can't quite place that one up there, so that's okay. Now you can sprint and run upwards like that by jumping, but then the question is, how do you get the wolves out? So we need to think about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig a hole going this way, and we're going to dig it at a ramp, so slightly higher than before. This will allow us to walk out, and of course it will also allow us to take wolves out of this particular pen, and we can use it to put them up against the NPCs that we want them to fight, or we can move them from one location to another. Now one should be enough, but sometimes the AI can be a bit derpy, so if you want to go wider, just do the exact same thing on this end, and so basically we'll have a bit of a ramp going upwards, and then we can close it off with 2 gates. Now if you're going to place down the gate, as it is a wooden structure, when storms hit it will damage the gate, so maybe you'll want to consider placing a roof. I'll show you how to do all that in a bit. So this should be good enough. Just one more hit here should suffice. Over here, if you want, we can always use a hole just to level that one up. So next thing, we're going to place down some gates. We'll put one gate here and another one like this, and that should keep the wolves in there. Now there is a bit of a gap there, which is good enough for us, but we can also of course place down a pillar like that. You want to build 2 pillars tall, 2 beams tall if you want, and then from there maybe add another beam or half beam depending on how. I'd go for a full beam actually, because there is a slope to consider. So 2 or a full beam actually like that. Try and get it to snap at the top, and then we want some vertical beams going this way, and to this we will attach the roof pieces. So we're also going to put the beams to go into the ground, which will act as a structural support. So we'll do that over there, and then we'll do the exact same thing on this other end. Now once you've done this, this will allow us to put down the sloped roofs. So we'll put one there where we can snap it, then we'll snap the other one next to it. There we go, we have the snapping point for it. This will protect the gate, but also we can get through it if and when we need to do so. Let's do this right here. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. We might need to rotate the roofs. There we go. It says missing. Okay. I am doing this in creative mode, by the way. This is just an illustration to show you how to build this breeding pit, as I like to call it. And of course, I'm not going to keep this. I'm going to destroy it. So I do have my own breeding pit in my main base. Next up, we're going to go with the walls. We want that as measurement. So 3, 4, and we'll go with a 5th one. And then on top of the 5th one, we will basically build the cage or the structure that will house the wolves. So there we go. That's that. Now, we're not quite done just yet with the ground part. We will need to raise the ground from there, like so. And notice what happens downwards down there. So we want to be careful. We want to put our crosshair right underneath the edge of that slope that we just built, like this. And we want to build it at a slope as well. So this will basically be the ramp going up to where we'll have the structure that will house the wolves that will be the breeding pair. So again, as I said, just add a couple of bits here and there. We're going to slope it, so this will be the ramp itself, and this is where we'll walk the wolves into their new home. We're going to use the hoe to level it out, make sure that the wolves are able to walk on it and they won't have any problems. And now it's ready for the build. Of course, there are several designs for this. It's kind of up to you what you choose. So the design I'm going to go with is just one of the many designs. It's actually the one that I'm currently using in my main base. We're going to place down 2 of these floor pieces. So that will give us a wide base, and then we want to center this piece like that. So a quarter on each of the 2 pieces that will be placed down, and half of it sticking out like that. So basically from here, the next piece we'll place down is actually a quarter piece right there, like one of these edges. It doesn't really make a difference, but you do want to remember where you place down that quarter piece, because that will also be the quote-unquote feeding trough, if you will. That's where we're going to throw the food to the wolves. So sometimes you may struggle with this, so you may have to snap some additional pieces to allow you to move outwards, or you can just come down here. That also works. We'll try and do it this way. So I'm going to place one there, and then we want to do a little box for them. This will also help us with the build as well. So we'll do this and that. That's perfect. Now we need another small tile like that, and basically the baby wolves, the pups, should fall through those squares. But the beams that we place down will also allow us to place the walls fairly easily. Now you can ramp it if you want. It does sometimes help, and you can just kind of push the wolf inside, but you don't necessarily need to do that. So I'm going to put a roof of some sort. It really doesn't make a difference what design you put. That'll do just fine. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we want to build some stuff out here. This will basically do 2 things. One, it will block the wolves from being pushed out this way, if that makes sense. So we'll put down a workbench. Now this has 2 roles. One, it will block the wolves from, as I said, being pushed out this way, but also it will stop the food from despawning. Over here, we are going to place some chests, and you can have like a little path leading up to the chest. In the chest, we can store the meat that we get from the wolves, or the meat that we're going to feed to the wolves, as well as the pelts. So, like so. Now, we've got the enclosure completed, but how are we going to get them in? They don't really want to comply. So, what we're going to do is going to go with 2 walls like this. You might want to wiggle around a wee bit. Hold on. I do want to try and keep some sort of pattern. As I said, this is one of the many designs that you can kind of go with. We want to have a beam going up here. Actually, I think it's better if we use a half beam, to be honest. We'll see how it works. It's probably going to be better with a half beam. And then we're going to go with the 26-degree inclined beam. We're going to snap it to the end. We're going to go all the way into the ground. You want to go like all the way into the ground because the wolves will snag if they're not all the way through into the ground. So what we're going to do actually is I'm going to go with a half beam and you'll see why. There we go. That way we can attach the next sloped beam to it. And so we'll do that. 2 won't necessarily be enough, and that's because the wolf won't be able to step over it, and it's going to cause problems. So you want to kind of go all the way into the ground. Either you bring the beams into the ground or the ground into the beams. It's really up to you. But now we should be able to walk fairly easily up this, and that's what we're looking for. Down there is where the wolves will be, the gate, the door, and this is only in case of emergencies, will act as a mechanism to try and shove the wolves around if you need to. That's the only purpose of that door. So we'll do the exact same thing here. We do want a bit of a funnel system here at the entrance just to keep things simple. So that's pretty much it. We're just going to push the wolf up this and in there. So now I have a wolf following me. As you can see, he's kind of slow. Now you can get the wolves to follow you once you've tamed them by just interacting with them, and then when you kind of got them close enough to where you want them to be, get them to start following you, because we will now push them up the ramp. They don't really want to follow you up the ramp for some odd reason, and we don't have a lot of movement. Now I don't really want to harpoon them either, and this guy's not really being compliant with me at this moment, so I might need to get him to come closer. That'll do. There we go. Now we can push you up the ramp. Now one thing to keep in mind is that we're going to be shoving in here 2 wolves, and their hitboxes does make it a bit complicated, so you might end up having the wolves kind of stacking on top of each other. We're going to push them all the way through. Just give him a gentle tap, make sure he falls down. Be careful not to fall with them, and there we go. There's 1 wolf down there. We'll just rinse and repeat for the second wolf. Now that we have the second wolf here, it's time to feed them. And so what we're going to do is, remember where you put the quarter floors. So the small floor pieces, right? That's quite important because one of them will be in the far corner. So in my case, it's that one right there. And basically we're going to aim for that side of the wall, for that corner basically. So crosshairs there. Chuck a piece of wood, chuck a piece of meat out, and it should fall right there. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is, if, say for example, if the wolves end up stacking oddly on top of them, we can use the door to just shift them about a wee bit. But if you do use that, it will sometimes push the food off into the pits, so keep that in mind. So I'm just going to show you that this works fairly consistently, and so it shouldn't cause any problems when feeding them. After a while has passed, you will end up with a pit similar to this full of wolves. I reckon there's about 11 wolves here, and as you can see they are running out of space, and that's why I suggested that you have a fairly large sized pit for the wolves to spend the time in. Now of course with these, as you saw in the Yoggoth video, you can have about 15 to 20 of these and they will demolish the boss in a couple of seconds. Of course the chances are that the wolves will die, but that just means you can harvest the fur and the meat off of them and then feed it to the breeding pair, or cook it, or do whatever you want with it. But that is pretty much it for this video, folks. I do hope that you have enjoyed it and found it useful and informative. If you have, please don't forget to support me and the channel by hitting that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already for more similar content from myself, and if you have just subscribed, why not check out some of my other videos and guides here on this channel. Who knows, you might just enjoy them. And don't forget to hit that bell icon icon so they get notified when I upload new videos and content to the channel. Also, for those interested, you can always find me on the Sethtopia Discord. Links to this, of course, you can find down below in the video's description. And until next time, stay safe, folks.